Good morning and welcome to another edition of the All-Star Advocacy Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Castro, and today we have on a very, very special guest, a San Diego native. She is currently a senior at my alma mater, Long Beach State, Go Beach, where she is the captain of the track and field jumps team. And she is actually our first college athlete advocate to come on the podcast. So it's my pleasure to welcome on this week, Miss Sydney Barnes. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm excited, nervous and excited.
Don't be nervous. It's all good. And you know, when I reached out to you, right, you specifically, it was kind of on the heels of this past week, right? We had on our latest guest, Brian Fletcher, and you know his big takeaway, the takeaway I got from it was, everybody has a platform, and although our nonprofit is really based around current or retired professional athletes, he just drove the point home that that's great, that's our foundation, but everyone has a platform. And that really speaks to, our younger generation, our millennial generation, and really the next generation to come, is that, anybody can use their platform, whatever age you are. And so that's kind of what the month of May is. We're really highlighting our relationships with, youth, college age, and high school even. And so, yeah, I just wanted to, thank you for coming on. And let you know that there's no restriction in terms of who is able to speak out on issues. It's bigger than
yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree with that.
So yeah, if I can, let's kind of just dive into the early years, right? Kind of the formative days growing up in San Diego. You grew up here in like kind of South Bay area, Chula.
Not quite.
Okay.
So when I was around 6 or 7, we moved to El Cajon, and that was where I think from 6 to about 12 or 13, that was where I was. Like, it was El Cajon, but everything we did was more in like Southeast. So I ran for Instep, which we practiced at Lincoln and MLK Park, and then middle school I went to MTM. My mom, she's currently still teaches at Johnson Elementary School. So that like home base, like where I literally rest, was in El Cajon, but everything else that I did was, I cheered for Valencia Park, go Hornets.
Okay.
And so yeah, I was, and then we moved from El Cajon to Chula right before I started high school.
Got it.
And then that's where everything.
You were pretty much in that community already.
Yeah.
Practicing and getting acclimated through athletics to the Southeast.
Yep.
You said, so fun fact for everybody who doesn't really know. So Sydney's mother, right, is an educator, and then I believe your father has some athletic genes as well. Is that right?
Yeah, my mom swears I get my athletic my genes from her.
Okay.
But my dad, he grew up obviously I'm super biased, one of the best players to come out of Lincoln High School back in the 70s or 80s, I don't know. And then he went on to, he played for Mesa for a couple years, and then got scholarship to Oregon University. And then after that, he played, I don't know the specific order, sorry, Dad, but I think it was the Chiefs, and then the Bears, and then the Falcons, I think. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. For I think it was 3 or 4 years there until injury, ended his career. But and then he's been coaching ever since. Well, not these past few years, but he was a coach for Lincoln. And then when I went to high school at Olympian, he was the football coach there for some time, for I think freshman and then, And then he's like special teams coach or something like that.
Got it. So needless to say, you grew up in kind of an athletic household, right? So at an early age, you're already thinking, running or track. I believe it was you first started in, was it dance or like
dance? Yes. I did dance because my sister did dance. My mom was like, "You're not gonna just not do anything." So I think when I was like 4 or 5, I started dance, and then it was tap and I think jazz, and I did not like it because I was always in the back because I was taller, and so I was like, I want to be in the front, like but I didn't like practicing for dance. Love my teachers though, and then I told Mom I didn't want to do it anymore. And then she was like, okay, well, you have to do something. And my dad was like, my friend Kevin, he's the coach for INSTEP, which is the track program. And so I went one random day, it was probably mid-season, did a practice, and I was like, okay, this is what I want. Like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. My legs, I remember we were practicing at San Diego High School, and they have like these enormous, their stadium is huge. And so like, I just remember my legs were dead trying to walk up the stairs, and I get into my dad's car and I like lean back in the seat, and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, my legs are just like shot. And then I was like, but this is what I want to do. Like, I want to run. And so the next season I finished out dance, of course, because they weren't going to let me, quit mid whatever season or whatever it's called.
But then you had to trade in those tap shoes for some
for some spikes. Yeah. Yeah. And then it was actually from there that I have lifelong best friends that I met there, and their mom talked to my mom about, like, why don't you just cheer? Because track is only from March to June. And then cheer starts, football season. So that's August, September until, winter. So from there, I started doing cheer. And that was pretty much from the ages 8 till I graduated high school. It was track, cheer.
Got it. But still very well rounded, right? You had the track component, and then also, track and field, and that kind of sustained you all the way through. It was Olympian, right? You went to Olympian High?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And then so kind of walk us through, was it a certain event that you competed in, or, how was the process of kind of getting recruited outside of high school? Maybe not even thinking like, do I want to be a college athlete? Or was it somebody that kind of tapped you and said, hey, look, we see what you're doing in this space. We think you could, run track for our college.
Yeah. It was everything that you just said. So I had no intentions of being a collegiate athlete. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to go. I actually had paid for my orientation, and I was like a couple of days from paying my dorms at LSU. And I was just going to go to LSU just to be a student. And,
just academics.
Just academics. Purely academics. Because I applied to only one California school, which was UC Berkeley, and didn't get accepted. And I was like, I'm going out of state. Like, I did one. So I did my little safety school, didn't work out. And so we go to the state track meet, and my uncle, Ricky, he's a coach in the Bay. He had an athlete who got recruited to Long Beach State. And so we were there just, talking, hanging out. And he was like, Sid, I want you to come meet somebody. And I'm like, what do you want, Uncle Ricky? Like, I'm tired. I just competed. Like, I want to hang out, watch the meet, and just enjoy my little time. I just graduated high school. I just went to a Beyonce concert. Like, I was just on it. I was like, this is top tier. And then
he's like, let me just switch up your whole life. Let me just
really quick. Let me just so it's evening, and I go and I meet Coach Stice and Coach Sheffield. And Coach Stice is the director of our track and field program, and then Coach Sheffield is our women's head coach as of right now. And they were like, okay, so like let's tell me about yourself. Like, what is it? What do you want to do with your life? And at that point, I was like, I don't know.
Like most
I
of
just
us.
want to,
Like most
yeah. And so we got to talk and just, feeling each other out. In the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, like, this is not like as an interview or a business interaction, but, you got to present yourself and you got to kind of, not advocate for myself, but, just kind of, because I went to financially, $36,000 in LSU versus, I think tuition in Long Beach is like 12, not even, something like 7,000 in state. So it's very big difference. So I got an invite to get not a tour of the school, but yeah, like a tour of the school, come and see what our facilities, see what we have to offer. So crazy. My coach tells me, he was like, that night when they were driving back home from the state meet, they're like, oh my gosh, we really liked her. Like, you just had a really great personality, whatever. And so I go visit the campus, and of course I fall in love with it. Like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. They had just gotten this new track, so it's like everything is new, it's shiny. Like the sand, I think the sand is what sold me, because I was a triple jumper in high school, and I was like, oh my god, this sand is so nice. Like, this is premium. Like, this is some great sand.
Shout out to Long Beach for making a state-of-the-art track after I graduated. So
of course. And then, I got offered a scholarship to pay for, partial tuition. And I was like, why not? If this is an opportunity, I'm still going to get a great education. California State Long Beach is like one of the top CSUs. So if not the top CSU. So it was just, I'm sort of making a decision. Like, you're going to have to, I had to reimagine what my college experience was going to be like. So
back to the drawing board. Kind of had to really weigh those options of this opportunity.
I did.
And did you? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but was the intent in that recruiting process come just run track for us, or the heptathlon, or did that come later after?
That came later.
Okay.
Yeah. So to go back, I won the San Diego section, Division I, long jump and triple jump, I believe. Or maybe it was just triple jump. I don't know. But I got a couple banners at Olympian if anybody ever wants to check them out. But I went to state, choked completely. got too much pride, and I was like, I'm going off this 36-foot board, like, it's gonna push me. Barely made the pit. Wow. But so I go there and I got recruited as a triple jumper. So my first year, purely triple jump. First meet, actually, we flew out to Air Force and I bruised my heel bone really badly. And so that wiped me out for the whole season. But I was training in high school. Sorry for jumping back and forth, but I was training in high school with my coach, Cameron Gary, and he was sort of whispering in, like, Sid, like, do the hep, like, you can kind of be a multi, because I also hurdled in high school, but it was just like because I could get over it, not because I had any intentions of being a hurdler. And so one summer he was out here for convention, and he was like, hey, Sid, I'm in town at the Long Beach Convention Center, let's grab lunch. So we grabbed lunch, and he's just kind of like, why not go for it? Like, what's stopping you from going for it? And for me, I was like, well, because we just had this phenomenal hep. And there's this, my old captain, her name was Riley Cooks. She's just this phenomenal athlete right now. She's actually training at the Olympic Training Center. She's, just one of the top peps in the U.S. right now.
Wow.
And so I'm like, like just kind of watching her, I was like, that's kind of intimidating because, that's a lot. Those are a lot of events. Not everything is new, but I knew how to long jump and I kind of knew how to hurdle, but I didn't know how to sprint a 200 or throw a shot put or throw a javelin or freaking run an 800. And that was like, I almost drew the line right there because that's a long race.
Yes.
So then I spoke with Coach Sykes, and I was like, hey, his HEP, I think that year he was down to 2, and then 2 became 1 because one girl opted to just become a high jumper. And I was like, I want to try it. Like, I'm just going to try it. I'm still going to triple jump, but I'm going to try to do the HEP and, see what I got. And, I never looked back. I stopped doing triple jump and went full-time heptathlete, and it has been the hardest thing in my life because I think I went in thinking like, okay, like I could do, I'll be, I'll be able to handle it. And you don't handle the HEP, like the HEP handles you. You gotta sort of, you find a groove in it. And it was very eye-opening because coming from, not a small school, San Diego's not small, but in, just coming from a school or from high school where everything you feel like, you're this big hot shot. Like, and I didn't walk around like, oh my God, everybody, like, look at me. But it was, you kind of knew like, okay, I'll always be, top 3 in the competition. Yeah. I didn't win an event in college until I think last year or so. Wow. So it's like, you just kind of have to reel it in because it's no longer just you. It's you and everybody else who was hot shots in their, in their city. And then that's just you as a school. Now you have your conference. And those are other people who are hot. So it's just like, oh my goodness, wow, this is real.
It's a big pool talent. It's a big pool talent. And, just kind of going back to your thought process in welcoming that challenge, right? It was an injury that kind of, obviously no one plans for injuries, but just approaching that situation with, kind of embracing the challenge and, going into the unknown. And yeah, you had experience in maybe 2 or 3 of those events, but kind of take me, like, what was it that, kind of made you think, okay, you know what? I want to take that slot. I want to challenge myself. What about, take me through that process.
There was only one thought, and it was like, this is hard, so let's try it. Like, this is something that seems, it's wildly new, and you're going to have to sort of, it challenged me as an athlete, and it challenged me as a person because, when you're jumping, you get your 3 or 6 jumps, and then, you kind of go back to the drawing board, figure it out. With the HEP, you have one event, and then every event follows that. And you have to compartmentalize, if you do bad in hurdles, leave it at hurdles, and it is what it is. You can't go back, you can't fix it. It is what it is. Now you have to, get into high jump gear. And then it's just being able to, I just thought it was like a challenge. That was really it. It was just a challenge. And I feel like people believe in me. If people see that I can do something with it, then I'm going to try it. So I think it was just I don't know what the word is. It's some like eloquent word, but it was it was just stepping up to see if I could do it, if I could just to see. It wasn't, like I didn't think I was gonna go out and be like, I'm gonna freaking go to nationals and like try this. Like I'm gonna be this, A1 HEP who never did anything before. But I just was very intrigued by how hard it looked to do. And
wow, to me, it sounds like 7 events, right? And there's that notion as, contact sports versus kind of thinking sports, right? People try to say, like tennis is, a really mental game, or golf is mental, or, baseball even, versus kind of just contact running. I feel like it's such a unique event, or, multitude of events where it's not only taxing physically, but again, like you said, having that short memory and be able to compartmentalize, I didn't do what I wanted to do on hurdles. Well, I have a high jump to land, It's to me, it sounds like the most draining, kind of energy-wise thing you could put yourself through.
Yeah.
First of all, what would be a event that you've maybe grown the most in? Maybe you didn't start out, the best at, but that you've really learned to appreciate the progress out of those
7? That's hard because automatically you want to go to like, well, where did I have the most progress? Which would have been hurdles. From high school to now, I've dropped like 2 to 3 seconds off of my hurdle time. But I think the 800, even though I still hate it, I don't like it at all. But there's just something about the grit it takes to finish the race. Like you have to. I'm a person where I stress out about everything until I start it, and then once I start it, I'm in it. But in the 800, there's so much time to think. Like in most races, you can't hear anybody yelling your name. Everything just got a tunnel vision. In the 8, it's like, oh, you got 2 laps, and you just hear breathing. Yeah, you hear people yelling. You know, you can see the time. Like you can physically, you know, you're watching the clock click down because for most of the heps, we're not full on sprinting. And
you gotta think to yourself, like, you can't do that a full sprint.
Yeah.
It's
But what's challenging about the 8 is in more recent times, it has become a sprint now. It's no longer a long distance race. That is the full on sprint. And so it's just like, I kind of appreciate, even though I'm not great at it, I really appreciate my tenacity to continue working at it, because those are one of the events where you can, if you talk yourself out of it, you'll get in it, you'll start it, and you'll be like, whatever. But I appreciate my like drive to continue wanting to be better at it, even though I know it's gonna hurt like hell. Like it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
But and then I would say no. Yeah, it's between hurdles and the 8, because the other events like shot and javelin, after I got them, after you sort of get those events, you get them, and like it's just more on how to work through it and chase after it, put the power where it's supposed to be, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, the 200, it's just a sprint. Like you're just sprinting. Like go for it, have fun, do what you can.
You've had that down for a while.
Yeah, it's just run. Like that's just run. But yeah, I think progress wise, like mark wise, it's been the 100, and then mentally it's been the 8.
Wow. And so that has direct correlation, I think, to like outside, like you said, growing, like progressing in life, and this whole, this challenge to meet all these different obstacles, put yourself in these situations and embrace hey, I'm not going to be the best at it maybe out the gate, but I'm putting myself through this, and I'm challenging myself, and I'm making this kind of difficult, so that when any other, maybe outside of sports, anything else comes up, you've already, you've tested your mind, right, in these instances. And I just think that translates, to just the school component and post-college life, really. But just before we move on to that, I'm thinking these events, do you squeeze them all in like a day? Is it like 4 events in like on a weekend? You split them up?
Yeah.
That whole process to me is insane. Just 2 days, 48 hours of this.
2 days.
What do you do to, I guess, keep yourself in a certain flow state? Do you like a playlist? Like music is, kind of amps you up, or more like a Zen, meditation? Don't talk to me, guys. I'm competing. What's your process for these?
I'm a talker. I'm not a big music person because I want to hear what's going on. I don't like being detached from what's going on. I need to know, like, let me know. That might be because I'm also like paranoid sometimes. It's like, what is going on? Like I can't hear what's going on around me. But I like to talk to people about like, what's your favorite movie? Or, what did you do yesterday? Or, just keep it easy, because I think I get in my head a lot. Like, ever since I was young, I was always overthinking things, overanalyzing things, trying to be meticulous about every single detail. And if I let myself go through that and start unraveling, then it's like, oh my gosh, and then that takes me out. Was actually a great example of that was my conference, obviously not last year, but in 2019, I scratched or I fouled my first 2 jumps in long jump. And if you foul out of any of the field events or, whatever, you don't get points. And if you don't get points, you're taken out of not taken out. They don't say you can't compete, but, you've lost that points, and now you're out of, striking range to do whatever. Right. And so I remember, like, telling myself, we can either freak out right now and, you know, just kind of lose your mind and I don't know, or we can I just talking with my teammates, talking with the other heads, and I was like, I'm just gonna have fun. I backed up my mark a lot just to make sure I was clear of, you know, not stepping on the red. But it was just like deciding. I had to make the decision on whether or not I was going to let it consume me or let it fuel me. And that was just where it went. I feel like sometimes people, they say, you know, you just have to make the choice. And as a kid, you don't understand what that means. Like, what do you mean you can choose to be happy? You can choose to be joyful. You can choose to be mad. And that was the one instance where I felt it. It was like, I can choose to let my anxiety roll crazy right now, or I can contain it and trust my training, trust my coaches, trust my ability, and just do what I know I can do. And then, of course, I jumped, and it was like dang near close to a PR jump. So, you know, it was just like, just let it happen. Not what's going to be is going to be, because that feels like that relinquishes control from people's life, and it relinquishes accountability. But that moment, if I were to foul, it doesn't define me. And if I don't foul, it doesn't define me. Like, it's part of the experience of the HEP. Like, I don't know how to describe it because I don't think I have the words to, but that was just one of those moments where it's like, this is the athlete part. This is where you have to hone in to what you know and just sort of do. But
and just what you just said, like, it is, you know, it's the athlete part, but it's also like the team captain part of it is that leadership and acknowledging, you know, this is 7 events that I'm doing. I got to be a robot to do personal bests and everything. You're going to fail. There's going to be a misstep, or there's going to be, you know, tripped on a hurdle, you know. You want to minimize those things. But again, going back to your focus and your, I guess, your preparation through these meets and being, you know, not closed off, that shows that you're in tune and your team can see that, right? That like she's involved, and when the cameras are on you, you know, a situation like that, who are you going to be? How are you going to lead the team?
Right.
Is she in control of her emotions? Can she acknowledge and then move on? Have a really quick because look, it's a team sport at the end of the day, and it's an accumulation of points, right? You can't afford to let one bad, you know, thing go into the next. So that's awesome. And I think, you know, that kind of ties into your mindset, you know, in kind of doing my research on you. You're making these all academic teams as well, right? So you're performing in the classroom, and kind of segue out of, you know, PRs, which I think you just got this past weekend, if I'm correct. I did. So
hurdles.
Okay.
Hurdles. Yeah.
Major congrats on setting PRs there. But, you know, I think it ties really well into the person you are in the classroom. So you're a sociology major, right? Okay. And then I think I saw a minor in like chemistry and also creative writing.
So I thought I was going to minor in chemistry, but I didn't. But I found out recently that I only need 2 more classes to minor in chemistry, but, you know, it's not going to do it. But I'm a sociology major, and I'm minoring in English creative writing. And my emphasis is health and medicine in sociology. And yeah, that was a major that I wasn't really expecting to be so like drawn to, because at first I was undecided when I, you know, first enrolled at Long Beach. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do criminal justice because it just sounded nice. Like, I was like, criminal justice. And then for criminal justice, you have to take a sociology course. And the intro course I took with, her name was Neelan Barnes. And it was just like explaining society in this way that you never knew how to articulate it. Like I can see that there's stuff wrong. There's things that are wrong but I don't know why. And then you take this course and you're like, oh, I get it now, you know? And so I chose sociology because of that. I enjoyed understanding the trends of society. You know, I enjoyed the why things happen and the domino effect of like one decision, or not one decision, but things that happened, you know, in the past and how we're seeing them come into fruition today. And so, yeah, to the all academic team, I don't know if you want me to talk about like my GPA and stuff like that. But,
yeah, go off.
Well, high school, I had like a 4.1 and like, wow, it's so cool. But like high school and college is so different.
Yeah.
Right now, my QM, I think, is like 3.4, which is not, it was a little gut punch to my little ego because I was like the student, you know, I don't get C's. And then I think one semester I had like 2 C's or something like that, and I just lost my mind. I was like, Mom, I'm not a good student anymore. Like, I don't know what's going on. And it was in like philosophy and like something else that was just ridiculous. And like chemistry, there's a couple of my chemistry classes, but we'll get to that because that's the later part of my college. But so it had a lot of it had to do with like time management and staying, you know, on my stuff. Cause I was like, okay, I've ran track, you know, before and during spring semester of high school, like I could do it. Well, no, because track in college, you start training in August and you don't finish until May. And so it's you're just tired the whole year. And I wasn't used to that.
It's a grind. It's a grind. It's a whole,
oh my goodness,
a whole nother level of competition, right? And then with those facilities, you're expected to like, hey, I gotta be busting, you know, my butt after class, before class. Not to mention you're traveling for these meets, right? And so, yeah, the classroom can slip. It's always, you know, that student athlete component that, I mean, a 3.4, and at the same time you're, you know, captain of your team and you're competing and performing these events. I think that's really, really awesome that you've been able to handle all of that, right? And so, you know, going back to, you know, what you were saying on I think it was a quote that I saw from you where you're speaking exactly to that. You know, everyone is shaped by many outside forces that influence their decisions and how, you know, how it affects the world around them. When I was at Long Beach, those courses I think were so integral in opening my mind to these bigger issues, bigger ideas, how the world really works, how you make sense of things. How does that mindset impact your daily life, right? How I want to ask, like, how down to, you know, what you have going on, you know, this week or this month, how are these classes really affecting like your personal life on the ground?
You mean like what, like how I apply the stuff that I know and how being able to live through it, like not live through it, live through
exactly.
It.
Making that connection from the classroom to, you know, your life.
Yeah. It took me a minute to stop being angry because there were some courses that you take where you learn about, like, I forget which course it is, but we were learning about like redlining one time. And this was, I think, my sophomore year when I first moved into my apartment right now. And I sort of like, you're warning, I sort of was driving around Long Beach and I was like, and I noticed the streets, then the size of the sidewalks and the size of the streets. And then when we were looking for places to stay, the area codes and how much that changed, like the rent, or how much it changed, you know, the stigma around like that neighborhood. And so my roommate, sorry.
All good.
So I was driving and I remember hearing, you know, that it was after, I think, World War II, they weren't giving Black soldiers the same amount of resources that they were giving white soldiers.
Right.
And that included the loans for houses. And so I learned about how communities were shaped, which is based on a Chicago style something where it's like a neighborhood and they place, the focal point of the neighborhood is the school, and then they build the community around it, and then you have, your shops and your stores on the outside of it. And that's supposed to be your community. And then as more Black people couldn't get, resources that they need, they moved into the cities, which I don't understand why it did, but it would lower some of the value of those neighborhoods. And so everything started moving out. And then they created the suburbs. And the suburbs is they used to, I don't know, I mean, we've all driven through suburbs at one point, and they're confusing and everything looks the same. Mm-hmm. And that was intentional because they didn't want people who were outside of the community to understand the inside of like the burbs. And so then come tying that back to, when I was driving, I was like, oh my goodness, Long Beach is low key kind of segregated because, I drive down the same street and, between, I guess, 7th, from 7th to
west of 7th, you got Walmart stores, right?
Yeah.
And that zip code. And then, go ahead. Sorry. Just I'm picturing exactly what
because you're seeing it. Yeah. You drive through and you see these, like we looked it up on Zillow when we're driving. These homes are $1.2 million, $1.7 million. And then you drive even further and you just see, the streets aren't clean, or, they're letting, the leaves from the trees pile up in the little weird nuts or whatever falls off of them, and the size of the sidewalks are different. Like they have these little itty bitty sidewalks in the closer you get to inner city, and then you drive maybe quarter of a mile down the street and you have these huge sidewalks, these huge streets, more parking. And so I just remember I was like, this is pissing me off because there's not really anything you can do you can do something, but it's such a slow process. But this is structurally, like people don't realize it's designed into our communities. And even when I go back home and you see the same thing. You see the exact same thing. And so it took me a minute to like reel it back in, because then you learn about, we learned about so many, we learned about, what was it that we saw? My last class, there was this, right around the election, we were talking about, they had this, not a literacy test, but back in the South, they had a test where only Black people had to take, sure, to prove that they were smart enough to vote, or that they could vote. And these questions were ridiculous. It was like, circle the last, the last letter of the sentence, and then they give you a sentence, but then the right answer would have been the previous sentence, and you're like, no, that's the direction. Or it was like it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I later on found out that this Harvard professor gave that same test to her Harvard law students, and they could not pass it.
Sure.
And so if you learn about all these little things, and I got angry. I got very angry and very like, well, I don't like, F this. Like, I don't want to be here. And then, but where are you going to go? Because it's everywhere. It's embedded throughout our whole society. So that took a minute, because it really opened my eyes to, when I was younger, you obviously know, like, not you obviously know, but you're taught from your parents, like, you kind of have to cross your T's, dot your I's, be a little bit more on top of everything, because you don't need to give anybody a reason to, X, Y, Z. But then just seeing it from a different perspective, from the environmental perspective, learning about environmental racism, like how Black kids or inner city kids are more susceptible to having asthma, because freeways are built right through the city. Why? Going back to that Chicago style, of how they were built. It was easier for people to come from the suburbs to the city to work and then leave again, and they were built right between neighborhoods. And then I can see that in Long Beach. So it took a moment, and I think it impacted me more my junior year, because I was more mature, so I could have deeper conversations. I took like I was in my upper divisions at that time. So you're learning about, the philosophers and the grandfathers of, these theories. And it just took a moment for sure. And then I don't know if you heard about, was it Clemson? Might have been Clemson's track and field team, how what is Clemson? I don't want to say the wrong school, but one of the major schools' track and field team, they cut the men's track and field program. And track and field is not a moneymaker sport. You don't really hear about it until the Olympics come up. And
I think I know where you're headed with this. I think I did read about this, but go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like understanding like this isn't that you're just taking away opportunities from kids who are just they're trying to do what they can, like me, pay for their college so that they can start creating the new generational wealth, be the first generation in their household to go to college, to get a higher paying job, to start their own business. So right, social mobility, that's what this country loves to talk about, with so many opportunities. But so it was just like understanding that the sociology behind even that little decision and how that impacts hundreds of lives. You have to sort of like know where to place your anger, because you can't be angry at everybody, because then now you walk around with a chip on your shoulder and now you're just, angry black woman trope. And then, it's just, you kind of have to figure it out where make it balanced. But
yeah. I think there was so much there that I resonate with, and just going back to learning about redlining, right? And there isn't a better, I think, college environment to be in to understand that than Long Beach, just because, I was told from the time that I was, hey, you want to be by Belmont, you want to, stay closer to campus, anything with a, chestnut, anything with like a nut or a fruit, those streets you want to stay away from, and stay in like the little downtown area, the art district.
Right.
And when you're taking those classes, yeah, it's very theoretical, but when you're living it and you're commuting and you're finding out, what are the areas I'm not privy to, that's when you get to learn, oh, it's because, I have not this, privileged, mindset, but it's, these things are ingrained. It's structural, these stark differences in one, zip code, one block. And you're right. When you come back to San Diego, you also find that here, right? We're a huge city, but we're made up of so many different, communities. And that's the key in this whole thing of figuring it all out is, seeing that everywhere lets you know this is by design, and that's what it's always been. And how is it that we can exactly move from that anger, like, I can't believe this is just the norm, to doing something about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think so. That's a huge, answer into the why sociology, right? I had a question about your creative writing class, or I'm sorry, classes. What, I guess maybe what was a project or something memorable that got you really excited to do in this creative writing aspect? Because that's, if I'm thinking kind of right brain, left brain, you have medical classes, right? You're doing pre-med.
I am.
And then also this total artistic side. So what's that like, kind of channeling that? And if there's been any like special projects or anything that's drawn you to that?
I've always been a little writer, not in more academically. Writing has always been something like super. I remember I think I was 8, and I wrote a letter to Barack Obama, and I still have it somewhere. It's framed. I think my mom has it actually. She took it, but and so I've always enjoyed writing just because it's fun. Like it's what you create, the world you want. And I also enjoy reading a lot, even though I say that, and then people are like, oh, how many books have you read? And it's like not a lot, but I have the certain books that I go back to, and that's my like escape. Like if I'm in a mood or I'm not having it, or I just need to get away, I'll go to my little books. But I wanted to try something different, like see what I can see if I can expand on just not being an academic writer, but trying to write more creatively, like you said. And so project-wise, I started a novel. I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but I started a novel.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's been fun because I found that I have like a knack for writing dialogue. And so my dialogue is like the best part. I'd hate, like the world building and stuff. I'll do that later. I'll write the dialogue first. So.
The setting up process is fun, but you like writing what they're saying these characters.
I do. And like the mannerisms of people. And so that's been really fun. And I was drawn to it because it's just an escape. Like you can write what you want to write and fantasize about whatever it is, or just, I don't know. It's fun, and I enjoy reading the stories. I'm also in a short story class, and so I get to read. I read a lot of short stories this semester, but then in a workshop class, you get to read other people's short stories, and that's really fun because I feel like you learn a lot about people's personalities and what they really enjoy about life and things that they wish they could change, or if this person writes about superheroes, they're like, okay, they're into that type of stuff. Or people write about romance, you're like, oh my gosh, I would never thought of you to be like this mushy gushy person.
That person's a romantic, wow, or
exactly.
Stepping inside their mind is what kind of got going on.
And I think, when people are like, you never really know someone, or you can't judge anybody based on how they look. That has been so true in my classes. Because there's some people I'm like, oh, he's going to write about like some fantasy, like sci-fi something. And then it comes out and it's just this comedic like masterpiece. And you're like, I didn't even know you were funny. So it's just, I love it. Like, it's so, yeah, I love it. It's so fun. It was fun. Like, it's a fun major. And I've read some forums of doctors, and they're like, you don't have to major in, biochemistry, blah, 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 blah. It helps, but you don't have to. And there's a time in my life where I can major in something just for the fun of it. I mean, I'm minor in something just for the fun, just because I want to enjoy, the class and the process of it all. But it's just an escape.
That's really cool. Crazy. I think that's so important, right? Like I know you're actually in the middle of studying for your MCATs and, following school. You're thinking kind of a med career, possibly in trauma surgery. And while that is, you're literally saving people's lives. There's no replacement for that. But I think it's really cool that like you've also got this. You're also following this opportunity to have that creative outlet, right? Very well-rounded, and that I cannot wait to hear finish that novel, because I want to read it. I want to see what you're saying.
Do you want to know what it's about?
Of course, yeah. I don't want you to share anything you don't.
No, it's mine. No, I talk about it all the time. It's about a female serial killer who's like living with a roommate and trying to like climb the food chain and be the boss. And that's like the whole premise of the story, where her roommate has absolutely no idea that she's this like psychopath, or I guess she'd be a sociopath, contract killer. And the other roommate, the actual killer is just trying to like live this double life, like whatever. And so I have about 70 pages written, I think, but I don't know if I in my gap year, I think I'm going to work on it more. But it's fun. It's just fun. It's
one little project to let yourself kind of go there. Just I hope this isn't replicating any kind of real life scenario. I think that's the only thing I can say about that. But that sounds like an interesting read. Obviously, just letting out these stories and following that. Pick it up and leave it. Let thoughts come to you. But that's really cool. That's really cool. And yes, I would. When you're done, you let me know. I want to read through a copy. I'm just being mindful of time. I got a couple more questions, before we let you go.
Yeah.
You got your studies, and I just wanted to, wrap things up in terms of, this has been like your high school collegiate career, and through all these, trials and challenges, right? You've challenged yourself in so many different ways and kind of been up for the challenge. Kind of want to take you back to this last year, right? 2020 and everything that, was shown in our forefront, really, in our society, globally, through the pandemic. But, what did you learn most this past year? What did you kind of take away from just the challenge of 2020?
About myself or about society?
Both. I mean, it can just, what comes to mind when, how would you describe your 2020 and any, challenges that you really had to face?
Well, I'm very blessed to have parents who, they both work like really good jobs. And so I didn't have to deal with any of the like monetary struggles, I was like, that was not a worry for me. So I was very grateful for that, because I knew about people's financial struggles, but it was just seeing it unfold. Like, you're scrolling through Twitter and you're looking at these lines of people trying to get off of work, so they can go home and go to the store and wait in line for 2 hours just to get, a packet of chicken or something like that. Like, but for me personally, it didn't really knock me off, like the whole, being outside thing. So I'm a homebody. I stay at home. I live at home. Like, this is, you find me, I'm at home. Sid, where are you? I'm at home. Like,
you're a good social distancer.
Oh, heck yeah. Like, I social distance before social distancing was a thing. But, so that part wasn't hard, but it was, I had to sit with myself for a little bit. And like, I realized there were some things that I had to work on, like forgiveness and being grateful for, the life that I have. And that was a little challenging, because not that I thought I had it all together, but I was like, I feel like I have a good head on my shoulders. I feel like I'm good. And then when you don't have anything to do but think, you sort of think about, relationships that you've had with friends and family, and like, if they were to leave right now, would you be happy with, the last thing you said to them or the last interaction you had with them? And that was so true, because they were leaving like that. Like, people were dropping dead.
Yeah.
Right. Over 500,000 people, and still climbing. So that part was like, okay, I need to, figure out where my head is at, because I was just been kind of going, never stopping to, appreciate what's around me, who's around me.
Being present.
And that was a lot. And I moved back home for a couple months or so, and just realizing, like, at first I was like, I moved back home, like, here we go. And then, but it was just being, having fun with my family, instead of feeling like that, like, gotta listen, gotta do dishes, gotta do all this stuff. And so just being grateful that I can do this, grateful that I can help my mom, grateful that I, can talk to my dad about whatever, because you never know when someone's leaving, dying, when someone is, you'll never talk to someone again. And so spending that quality time was very, very, changing for me, changing my whole trajectory for, how I want to live my life, because I was I wanted to just be like, I still am going to be this doctor, but I was like, okay, medicine is going to be the thing in my life. Like, people are going to look at me and be like, medicine, like, she is medicine. And then I was like, no, I don't want that anymore. I want to still be able to, talk to my family, be in their lives, and, just kind of balance out things. And it helped me figure out how I want to balance, life. And luckily, no one in my immediate family got sick. But I did have a cousin, I think, in Louisiana, who she ended up on a vent, but luckily she survived. And then that whole scare, because she was around my grandmother. My grandmother's like in her 80s, so it was like, oh my goodness, like, this is a lot,
Yeah.
But societal wise, I wasn't surprised because I think Trayvon Martin was was our first, big, hey, it happened. And I wasn't surprised, but I think I was hurt. I was still very hurt with everything that happened with Mr. Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, because it's like this is a time where the whole world has shut down. Like everything shut down. Why is this still going on? Like why is this still happening? What the heck? And so like not being able to really, it took me a minute to process it, because I think I've seen, I saw Eric Garner's video. Who else? I saw Sandra Bland, not, her actress, but I've seen it before. Philando Castile, like his was awful. And, you see these videos from time and time again, but I think it just really like made me angry, because it's like, dang, like this is still the one thing, this is the one thing that we're going to keep normal. This is the one thing that we're going to, you're not going to ease off on. And it just made it like, no, Sydney, racism never does ease off. It always will be, a part of your life, and our lives. And I had to realize my privilege as a lighter skinned Black woman, because I have people view me differently than they would view like a counterpart who was darker skinned. And that was like hard, because now I'm like, now it's, you're always talking about other people, use your privilege. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I do that? And so trying to figure that out, because that was very eye-opening for me. Wow. And then I did get involved with protests, not the big ones, because I was nervous about COVID, but when I moved back out to Long Beach, one of my friends invited me to, she's like, let's just like go with me. It's going to be not chill, but like it was going to go to see what happens. And that was terrifying, because we got like corralled into an underpass, an underpass, and we had police like squishing us in, and it was ridiculous. Yeah. But I went to a few more in San Diego, and then and I just realized that there's so many different systems that need to be worked on. It's not just the police, it's healthcare. We need to work on healthcare, racism and discrimination and prejudice in our healthcare system. And I think that was one of my driving forces. Like at first it was, I just want to be a doctor so I can help people. And now it's like, I want to be a doctor because I don't see other people like me being doctors. I've been to numerous doctors, because athletes, you get injured all the time. And when I was younger, I was premature. So, we were in medical facilities all the time. And I can't really look back and say, like, I saw someone like me in San Diego. Maybe somewhere else there is, but I never saw, like, someone who I felt understood me, as I'm not just a patient, I'm a female Black patient. And, there's a difference there. And so I actually compiled like a list. I would screenshot tweets of Black women in there, and they talk about their experience. And I'd be like, and this is what I want to change. Like, this woman died because there's a stereotype, a stigma that Black people in general can handle pain better, I guess, like where we can manage pain better. It doesn't hurt as much.
That's been perpetuated, right? That narrative.
Yeah. And I was like, that needs to, they took a poll. I forget which medical school it was or who it was, but 50% of medical students at that college agreed with it, that Black people don't feel pain as much. And so it's like, I want to go in and I want to be the voice for some people who might might be too intimidated by the whole white coat, because there's that separation of when you go into a doctor's office, I am the doctor, you are the patient, there is that line, and it is what it is. Exactly. There's hierarchies, and it's like, no, I want to go in and recreate the patient experience. I am no different than you. I am here to help you, and that's all that it should be, and that's all that it ever should have been. So, and I did some volunteer work at a hospital for 15 months out here, and I saw it there too. I was like, oh my goodness, it's kind of bad, you know?
Again, it goes back to structural, right? It's every all facets of our society, and it's learning, and not to cut you off, but like, what area can I do my best work and outreach and help others in? And you're saying, like, again, the healthcare field, right, is in dire need of that kind of representation.
COVID being COVID, and, you know, affecting Black and brown communities at increasingly larger rates than it was other communities.
We're the hardest ones hit.
Right, through everything. So it's just like, I feel like tying it back to sociology, this is why I enjoy my major so much, because I'm not going to just not use it after I get into medicine. That's why, you know, I think it's more important for me to be, you know, a more, like you said, a well-rounded person, because you have to bring different experiences, and you don't, if every doctor was robotic, like the ones that I have met, you lose that human connection. You lose that, like, that interpersonal relationship that you have with people. And so I think it refocused again my idea, the ideas that I have of what I want to do with my life as a doctor. Like, I want to be an advocate for people. I want to help people. I just want to, I mean, and I know all doctors say that, but I want to help the voiceless people who can't really say what they have to say because they're worried, well, if I piss this doctor off, is he not going to give me, or is he or she not going to give me what I need? Or, you know, I spoke with my friend the other day, and he was in Louisiana and went to the hospital, and he said it took him literally acting a fool for them to finally administer the help that he needed. He said, I was sitting in the waiting room and people were just passing me by, not helping me. And it's like, and I had to finally voice myself, like, why am I being looked over? And it's the same stuff. Like, you kind of just, I want to change it. And I'm not saying I'm going to go in and be this, like, wipe it out, new system, like, it is what it is. But if I can affect change in one place, then that inspires people to affect change in their one place. And it's just like a ripple effect. You just want to be, you know, like the spark maybe, or just something to get it changed. So I think, was it Tupac? I think he might have said that, where he was like, as long if I inspire the next generation, then I've done what I needed to do. It's not about the fame and the glory and the whatever. It's, you know, it's about what I can, you know, start. And that's all I really want to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was like very all encompassing, right? We started with COVID and what that slowed us down, but then the societal issues that continued, right? In policing or, you know, these disparities and how that has just shaped the mindset of, yes, being present, of, you know, I need to be more in tune. Sometimes we're on the go. We don't appreciate things, but also having that same lens of like, yo, I can be more actively involved in this, and I'm gonna take credits so I can chart this path and help more people and again be an advocate. And so I think, you know, we're close to time, but I think I want to just kind of wrap it all in one way, because you have such kind of a dynamic, the intersection of these worlds, right? You are an athlete. You are a college athlete that, you know, kind of a podium reference, but you have a platform, right? And this year we saw, and it continues, this athlete activism across the country, across the world, really. And those are people in our society that, you know, because of the profession, because we treat sports as gospel. We love it. It's entertainment. The Olympics is coming up, yada, yada. That is something that people get, kind of their politics from. And I would just, ask you, I mean, apolitical, really. It's just about the message. But if you could tell, the next Sydney Barnes that's running track right now in middle school or high school or whoever in San Diego or in Long Beach, what would you tell them about exactly that, using your platform, whatever age, whatever, sport you play, to, further these positive ways you can impact your community, your society, and just like that, the ripple effect, right? What would you tell them right now that they're listening in?
The first thing that comes to mind is like, I don't want to say be yourself, but be proud of your beliefs. Well,
I mean, that's a double-edged sword too, but
it is.
Go ahead, speak. Go ahead.
You have a voice, and regardless if you reach out to 1 million people or to 3 people, you have a voice. So if you're standing up for something that you feel is important, or that it's important to you, then say it. Like, be proud that you have a stance, because some people don't. Some people don't want to rock the boat. Rock it. Let the water fly, because people, when you think of like your image, for me at least, I don't want to be a person where it's kind of like I always went with the flow. Like, I just kind of, when it ebbed, I ebbed. When it flowed, it flowed. Like, be proud of who you are and of what you believe in. And I know, some people's beliefs are a lot more extreme and have historically had negative impact. So that like you're saying, it is hard to say, like, be proud of what you believe in, but just take a stance. Because when you look back at it, do you want to be the person who let something happen to you, or you did something to change what's happening, And that's all that you really can do. It doesn't matter about the amount of people you think. You don't need to have this, 100,000 followers and, speaking out at, just affect the change where you can, because any change is good change. Change is good. Change is always good. Will it work? No, but it's trial and error. You have to see if this is going to help it and if this is not going to help it. If you just kind of stay in the middle, you're never going to know. So take pride in your beliefs, and don't let anybody put you in this box of, you're an athlete and you need to, what did she say? Was it Tommy? And you just need to play your sport. Like, just shut up and dribble,
Sure.
No, because you are more than just an athlete, and you are more than just a student. You are everything. And then, so just say what you have to say and believe in what you have to believe. And if it goes against the grain, it goes against the grain, and that's just, it is what it is. But to those who have more historically negative beliefs, I just always ask, is it a belief that you have because you truly believe it, or is it something that you feel that if you say something against it, you'll be, shunned, or you'll be, like, looked at kind of side-eyed? Because there's always welcoming arms. You get to choose, who you allow in your life, and you get to choose your family, and you get to choose a lot of things. So someone is always going to be there to catch you, just say what you have to say, and be proud that you get to say it, because we don't we luckily live in a country where they don't, throw us in a jail cell if we say anything bad about, what's going on. But
right.
Yeah, I would just, be proud of your stance and do the research too. Like, don't, because I know a lot of people, they kind of just have their thoughts, and because of what they hear their friends say or what they hear someone else say, like, do your own research. It's okay. I've gotten to so many political arguments with my parents. I actually enjoy it because it pisses them off.
I'm right there.
But you kind of have to take it up. But yeah, that's all I would really say. And yeah.
Sydney Barnes, you're a game changer. You're like all of this conversation really, I mean, it is refreshing to hear that, this our next generation, it has this mindset of, look, again, shake it up. If it's not working, let's address it. Let's speak out. And, I just thank you for being the person that you are. And, I know we went a little over time today, but
all good.
Just taking the time to sit down with us and get your story out. We look forward to, events, post college. If there's anything we have going on here in town, speaking to our youth, you are the shining example of all of these ways intersecting, right? Is being an athlete advocate and using your voice to speak out. So I just want to thank you for taking the time again. And, when that novel comes out, you gotta let us know. We get a first read.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And if you want to let anybody know, your next, I guess, meets that are coming up. I know you guys have a pretty packed May schedule. Any competitions that, hey, if you're in the area, come support Long Beach State. We definitely want, I don't know if you're able to have like audience or if they're still closed up.
No. Well, so after this airs, I would have already competed in my multi, because that's coming up this Friday and Saturday. But send positive vibes. I think our track meets 13, 14, 15. So we're not allowed to have spectators, but just send the positive vibes. It will be streamed on Big West TV, I think, or something like that.
Big West TV, y'all.
Yeah, so you'll be able to watch the meet live, and then they'll have clips of the hep sprinkled in, of the hep and the deck sprinkled in there. But yeah, that's just what we had. And that's the end. That's it.
Wow.
So,
we'll be watching. We'll be rooting on. And
thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming on. And can't wait to just keep the relationship going and keep kicking butt. Finish off the grades and the classes and all the prereqs. And we'll be talking to you shortly.
Thank you.
Alrighty, Sydney.
Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.